Russia has condemned NATO's Arctic Light 2025 exercises in Greenland, calling them a direct counter to Moscow's Zapad 2025 drills and a clear threat to national security. Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov warned that any deployment of Western peacekeepers in Ukraine will be considered an occupation and accused Europe of trying to pressure US President Donald Trump to sabotage the peace process.
If any part of Ukraine becomes the territory where so-called peacekeepers are deployed, and if Western security guarantees aimed against the Russian Federation apply to that part of Ukraine, the former Ukraine, this territory, this will mean only one thing, I repeat, that the West will have occupied Ukraine.
Lavrov stressed that recent ultimatums and deadlines for Russian President Vladimir Putin to negotiate have passed without consequences, signaling Moscow's rejection of NATO interference in regional security matters.
Europe is clearly trying, quite brazenly, to carve out a place for itself at the negotiating table. Although, from its position of revanchism, of inflicting a strategic defeat on Russia, there is, of course, no place at the negotiating table.
Denmark is leading Arctic Light 2025, involving over 550 troops from France, Germany, Sweden, and Norway. Exercises include helicopter assaults on mock enemy bases, reconnaissance using drones, and maneuvers through Greenland's harsh mountainous terrain. Major Morten Kruse of the Danish Army described the challenges of the Arctic environment, emphasizing the difficulty of transporting equipment across glaciers and high-altitude areas. NATO says the drills are aimed at reinforcing joint response capabilities against destabilizing threats in the Arctic and North Atlantic.
Two aspects that's challenging. The first is that there's no real infrastructure, so we need to move everything by boat or by air, and that makes it very difficult to resupply the company. And the other thing is that there's a lot of hills and altitude meters, and that means that it's very hard for my soldiers to carry all their stuff on their back. It takes a long time to move from A to B by foot.
The Russian embassy in Denmark blasted Copenhagen's announcement to acquire long-range precision weapons capable of striking Russian territory, calling the decision outright madness and a public threat to a nuclear power.
The cooperation with our Danish hosts, but also our French allies here, works smoothly, because essentially, the success or failure of military forces in such an environment depends on the basic military skills. And French or Danish soldiers are just as cold in the evening as a German. And at the same time, we all enjoy the Arctic light together after dawn.
Moscow warns Denmark is preparing for scenarios of direct military confrontation with Russia, framing NATO's Arctic maneuvers as escalating tensions after Zapad 2025. As NATO showcases its strength in Greenland, Russia signals it will respond firmly, portraying the drills as a provocation and a challenge to Moscow's sovereignty and Europe's security.